Hey everyone, it's me. Welcome to We the GamerCast. It's brought to you by all of our producers over at patreon.com/makeusbetter, like our platinum executive producers, Corey Hicks at twitch.tv/chicks_18, and Mr. Mark Moody at youtube.com/out of lives. Our gold executive producers, Meg BC from Quest for Pixels and Panache, Malloy, and all of our amazing executive producers, Tony Hutchinson, Donnie, Reece, Stephen Iafrate, JoeySplats, Caro, Underwood, Dante, Bellini Jr., Jared Gauthier, Dude427, Kevin Austin, Josh, Bloodborne Borbone, Tammi Ryan, Robert Miller, Tim Aulph, Martini Jean, David Ray, Jesse Armstrong. Thank you guys so much. When you support us at patreon.com/makeusbetter, you're supporting me in four ways. We the GamerCast, twitch.tv/Sean Capri, If We Ran Nintendo with Bobby and Jason, and the Xbox Drive with Luke Lord. Now, on to the show. Sean Capri, and welcome to episode 168 of We the GamerCast. It comes to you on iTunes, Google Podcasts every single Monday. Also, youtube.com/We the Nerdy. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting the like button, leaving a comment, and sharing, retweeting. Guys, if you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet, and if you want to be on the show, it's so easy. You just tweeted me at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. I wanted to make things a little different. I hope this is okay with you guys. I tried something out a little different. I wanted to throw all the Patreon stuff at the start because I felt like I was kind of like rushing through this section, and I don't like, I mean, not that I want to really make this a lot longer, but I felt like I had to kind of race through that part. I didn't feel like I was really giving that the attention it deserved, and then I kind of had to like race through this part, and you guys need to know how to be on the show. It's easy. Tweeted me, Sean Capri, Sean like Connor, Capri like the pants, all that stuff. I was trying to figure out like what parts could stay, what parts could go, and I'm like, if I just move the Patreon stuff to the start, then you hear it first and foremost, those guys at the top of the show, and then we can do this. We can have a little chat. We can talk back and forth. Also, it's funny, I was just hitting record on that part, and I accidentally hit start streaming instead of start recording on OBS. So I don't know if Twitch just lit up for a second, but it's possible. So in case you guys are watching or listening to this on Monday, and you're like, what was that weird thing that happened on Sunday with the Twitch? That was it. Now you know. Guys, the show continues to rock, and I am so grateful for you being here and continuing on. And today is a great example of women kicking ass on this show. Seriously, come on, guys. Like let's bring everybody on to We the GamerCast. I think we're gonna maybe break a record. This may be the most women on a non-women, like women in gaming type of show. We're gonna kill it, guys. I have a great guest for you, Maranda Carvell, coming up very, very shortly. I want to give a couple quick shout outs. One to Edwin Garcia, amazing episode last week. If you guys missed it, it was all about how music changed the course of his life, and I just thought it was a great story, great conversation, and Edwin is a great friend, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. I was on the Trophy Room last week with the PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players. Rate 5 stars, like, subscribe, share. Joe, you got that nailed down, man. That's kind of hard to say. So we did that over at twitch.tv/Sean Capri live, which was so much fun. Just wanted to help out with a little technical difficulties happening over in the Trophy Room, but that's okay. What else is new in the PSN, right, Joe? So guys, check that out. And this weekend coming up, do you guys say this weekend, meaning like the next coming Saturday, or do you say like next Saturday? Leave a comment below. I say this coming weekend. I will be live in person, live to tape with Ryan Turford, Drew McMillan, Brock McLaughlin for the freaking Game Moves podcast. I'm going to Toronto. We're going to sit in the same room. We're going to touch each other, like gently, and be in the same proximity. We're going to smell each other's musks and possibly even record a podcast. So stay tuned for that. Follow me on Twitter, and I will, of course, be sharing it there. A couple things that happened, I think, since the last time we talked. Was I Twitch affiliate last week? If I wasn't, since then, I think I was last week. But since then, I got my first couple subs. That's amazing. Got a couple of donations, also amazing. So needless to say, I am making my plans to quit my job. We're going to make a run at those guys. So thank you everybody for showing up. It's great. If you haven't noticed, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at about 8:30 Mountain Time or 10:30 Eastern Standard Time is when we're going live. I might even do a little Destiny this week. I don't know why. Every now and then somebody mentions Destiny. I'm like, I kind of just want to play a little Destiny. But I've got Kingdom Hearts still on the go. I don't know if I'm going to continue streaming Octopath, but you guys let me know in the comments if you want it. Like, let me know. Tweet at me what you guys want to see. I'm up for anything, but I was thinking about Octopath maybe just being my my toilet game. You know what I mean? Or like bedtime game or something like that. I don't necessarily know if it's the best for streaming, but you guys let me know. I just want to make the best product and content for you guys. Really quickly, but there's really no smooth way to transition to this. Today is Sunday, August 26th, and earlier today I learned of a horrific shooting in Florida, and I wanted to offer my thoughts and prayers to the families affected. But more than that, I just wanted to remind everybody, like, let's all keep positive, stay together. Gamers are an amazing group. So I just hate that a moment of, I think it was frustration, a moment of really bad decision making was so needless and so permanent, and it breaks my heart, man. So I just Lincoln is sleeping. If you guys, I can show you guys on the thing here. Lincoln is sleeping right now, but I just put him to bed, and I gotta say I took a little longer than normal. I get it, just enjoyed that moment as much as I could, and I encourage everybody to, whatever it is, whether it's a baby or life or house or whatever. That's why it's so important for us to take a moment, be grateful for everything, because who the hell knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So my 3 things, we haven't done this in a little while, guys. My 3 things I'm grateful for. Number 1, my parents, which is maybe a no-brainer, I guess, but particularly this weekend they were helping Chelsea and I out, and just really grateful that they're here. You know what I mean? So grateful for my parents, grateful for my Make Us Better brothers and sisters. Make Us Brothers. We had a meeting yesterday. We're meeting once a month, guys. I don't know, a little inside baseball, but the whole group meets once a month just to try and make sure that we're up to speed with each other's content and make this the best Patreon on the freaking internet. So I'm grateful for all you guys and girls. Well, it was really just guys on the call, but Caro's in there too. Anyway, and of course I mentioned Lincoln already. My 3rd thing is I'm grateful for Lincoln and how he sleeps. He sleeps a ton, and it almost scares me because the new baby's coming in and she's not going to sleep a ton. So grateful for that while I've got it. And with that said, with all that out of the way, second shout out to Joseph in this intro. Guys, why don't we get right into it? This is a amazing conversation. We're going to cover everything from parenting to Divinity Original Sin to Gears of War to nutrition. Here she is, Maranda Carvell. Follow her on Twitter. Oh yeah, at Hotel Queen, Maranda Carvell. I just realized I was driving home yesterday, and I'm usually listening to as many podcasts as I can possibly consume, but I'm like, I haven't listened to anything in forever, and I just cranked up the tunes. I was singing on the way home from work and everything. I haven't done this. Just a nice release, just to have little music in your life. It felt nice.
It's good for you. It's fun, and it's physically good for your health. I'm a natural healthcare practitioner, and it stimulates your vagal nerve. It's in charge of everything.
I don't even know what that means, and I did want to ask you about that, actually. So I suppose we can maybe just dive right into that. How do you, that seems like a path that you kind of have to decide on pretty early, or is this something that came on a little later in life for you? How did that all work out?
No, that's a second career for me, and a lot of us who work in healthcare kind of have a journey or a story of what brought us there. So really, I've always lived, I think, a healthy lifestyle and had that interest, but it was my own personal health challenges. So I was learning more, and I felt like I was getting a degree from Amazon, that led me sort of down that career switch, that career path. Mm-hmm. That was almost 10 years ago, I guess, now that all of that started. So yeah, myself, my daughter, we have autoimmune disease, and in looking for our own answers kind of led me down that path. And you'll find that a lot of people who work, at least in the natural healthcare, in wellness, have a bit of a story of what brought them there.
Well, and I've talked to, obviously, my own therapist, but I've known many other therapists or people who've gone into the mental health region too, and they had their own, I wouldn't even necessarily say demons, but questions of themselves or self-discoveries and reflections that they're like, you know what, I kind of want to just study up on this. And I guess I don't know if the two are correlated, that type of mind that is maybe overactive in that way wants to know more, so that it leads you down into that path to help others. So I've always been very interested in what leads people down the path, whether it's some sort of like genetics or it's the whole like nature versus nurture thing. Like I followed my dad a lot too. Like I ended up in charities, like in fundraising, and I never thought that was like, I went to school for marketing. I went to school like to be not that kind of thing. And I still found myself.
Those things can coexist, though. They're not mutually exclusive.
As I've discovered, which is incredible. But you mentioned your kids. You have a whole like farm of kids.
I got a pile. Let me get my abacus. Yeah. I've got four kids.
Yeah, so it's funny you say abacus too, because Lincoln is sleeping upstairs. Thank you for working around nap time today. So this is this is perfect. Those days. Yeah, he actually fell asleep unexpectedly. We were just sitting down for a quick second. I'm like, he's feeling really heavy, and you kind of try and bend around to kind of see if is he awake. And yeah, no, he was totally asleep. So tell me about, can you do you talk about your kids? Tell me about your four kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 3 boys and a girl, and they are 9, 11, 16, and 19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've got two are bigger than me now, which is a weird thing. I mean, I'm only 5'2", it's not a stretch, but so I've been through a few ages and stages, and it's really cool to have older kids who are, well, like my oldest is an adult and the second one's pretty much there, to have kids who are like fun to hang with and do things with and like the same things that you like. Like, no surprise, they're all huge nerds.
Are they really?
Oh yeah. They got like the genetic double whammy.
That's very encouraging.
Sorry about your parents. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Best time for that though. It was different like back in the day where it's like it didn't really want to be a nerd. Now it's like, you know what, we're kind of taking over the planet.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's fun. Like, that's all stages are fun, and there's nothing like give me a baby any day of the week, that sweet baby stage. But when they're old enough to to play like the more complex board games, like we like tabletop, we like video games, we like D&D, we like all the things, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And so actually my 16-year-old's an amazing dungeon master. He's in a D&D club at school, which is pretty cool.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Oh, right. It's like the best part of parenting is having people to play with all the time. Like I never have to worry about who I'm going to go see the new Avengers movie with or anything like that. Like it's amazing. So yeah, it's cool. Like it's, younger kids are fun for sure, but to have like adult kids who can go places with you and do things and like the same stuff you like, or can teach you things, like they go down their own little niches, right? Different parts of geek culture, and then they can educate me. Right?
What's the most surprising little niche that sort of like popped up that you didn't expect them to do, or that maybe you didn't expect to even take a liking to when they showed it to you?
Oh, goodness. Well, I mean, they introduced me to games and things sometimes. But, for that age, like everything that their entertainment and everything they learn about all kind of comes from YouTube, right? So I go on YouTube. What do I look for? I look for either like something very specific or clips of TV shows or whatever. But to them, all media is equal because they didn't grow up with cable television or anything. So, I mean, we were just having a riot last night watching this YouTube channel of this young teenager guy who builds robots and stuff out of like garbage, like out of nothing. And they're a little more, they have a little bit more of like that engineer brain. My 16-year-old wants to be an engineer for sure. That's not my flavor of nerd for sure. So we're watching these YouTube videos. This guy built this robot out of like a CD player and a Kinect and literally stuff from the recycling bin that tracks it's got facial recognition. Yeah. And when your eyes close, it squirts energy drink in your mouth.
What?
Right. But they want to know like how it works. Like they're going to deconstruct the shit out of this. Oh, sorry. Do we swear on this podcast?
I don't know if shit counts as a swear, really.
Okay. Good.
I think that's okay.
They just want to know how everything works. They want to take things apart. My oldest loves to buy stuff at Value Village. Like, I don't even know how many old 80s clock radios he has that he then like he likes to take them apart. He likes to reprogram things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's neat to kind of learn. They're very sciencey, whereas I'm more like
fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you like? Okay, what's this? I have so many questions because you have such a like your kids are all over the place. Like between 9 and 19 is crazy. So, gosh, what are you doing to like kind of cultivate that? Is there any like one thing that you do, or is it just essentially just whatever you guys want to do, we'll just make it happen? I'm always curious of like the cultivation, whether it's creativity or science or whatever the kids are passionate about.
I mean, like you were saying, like some of it is exposure, like what you're exposed to. Like you learn certain things from your parents, and they learn certain things from us, I'm sure. But then they discover their own things too. Like my 19-year-old's very musical. He's got an ear. He was never in lessons or anything like that. I mean. That's not me for sure. And he learned how to play piano from YouTube, right?
Wow.
Like he plays like classical music. He plays mostly video game scores like Elder Scrolls and all of those. And he's all self-taught from YouTube. So obviously, absolutely like nurture that, get him the gear, give him the time and the space to do those things. So, you know, some of it is what they're exposed to. And like they grew up obviously playing like family game nights and things like that, and having that be our regular. Other people sit around the TV, you know, we look for like games that everybody can play, video games, board games, whatever that is. But then they find their own little things that they're into as well, right?
This has got to be like the most wholesome thing I think I've ever discussed on this show. This is incredible. What kind of like tabletop games are you guys playing? Because I've always like my parents are coming over this evening actually, and we've been dying to play a little Catan. Like it's so mainstream. It's a little embarrassing even to bring up, but I'm always curious like what else people have got on their shelves to break out and for tabletop.
Yeah, so I mean, I have like some of the more like hardcore board games, the kind that take a while to set up and a while to go through. But then I have some that are, you know, like a step above checkers, but that other people can play as well. When we have company over that aren't like super big gamers, we like Love Letters. Have you ever played that?
No.
Oh, it's a really sweet little game that anybody can play. Like kids can play it because you're only managing like one card at a time. It's very inexpensive, and it's played with cards, and you have one card at a time, and it's got a cute little story about it, about how you're a suitor, you're trying to woo the queen or the princess, and the goal is just you're trying to get your love letter to her through like the court jester and the handmaidens and all the different people in the court, and they're just cards and they have numbers on them, so it's really easy. So you're just trying to hold on to the highest number card is all you're trying to do.
I love it.
And so it's super simple, but the cards are beautiful, and it has this nice little story, and you just play. A round can take like 3 minutes, and you get a token, and you can just play to 3 tokens or 5 tokens or whatever you want. So you don't even have to be able to read, right? Just like Carcassonne is a great one. Like my kids were playing Carcassonne when they were like 3 and 4. There's no reading. Right?
Like I said, I'm so ridiculous. No, I've never heard of this. This is a thing. I'm writing these down because I'm like, this is going to eventually replace all this garbage behind me. I'm going to have to actually have like useful games.
Your mouth. Look at that stuff.
I mean, they're fun toys, but they just take up space. But like this sounds amazing. This is like, because I remember growing up and like Sunday nights were perfect, right? You'd have like there was Disney afternoons on Saturdays, and then on Sundays there was like Darkwing Duck, and there's always like time around Simpsons and things like that. And those were like just, it's not even the specific memory really of any one night. It was just like that was the thing that you did. And I just love that this is the household that your kids are growing up in. So I always just try to take like little tips wherever I can kind of get them. I'm like, that's a little something I'll bank in my brain, because I know Chelsea's like that as well.
Right? And just sitting around the TV, like, not that we never watch TV, we love to watch movies and things, but you know, to do something where you're interacting and having fun, you know, or something that especially games that have a more of a collaborative nature, like for the younger kids with video games, like games like Minecraft, right, where they're building and creating, working together and not trying to beat each other is a nice dynamic as well. I mean, we like to beat each other too.
I love that. It's got to be a winner.
Yeah, I play to win always.
I'm curious how you approach the mixture of like training, almost like where you almost get like a YouTube university degree kind of thing, versus maybe some of the more traditional style of like textbooks and schooling, like how does that work with your kids, especially across their different ages, where it's probably a little bit more heavily influential with the younger ages, maybe at 19, I'm not sure, maybe those kids are still like mostly internet kids. Like how are kids' minds adapting to the change in how they're being educated and trained, I guess is my question.
So it's really interesting to see the difference between schools when my oldest started, which would have been like 2003,
right,
and even schools like now with the younger two. So with the younger two who are currently 9 and 11, so they're going into grades 4 and grade 6. Yes. They are started. Yeah, solid. Grade 2, they get their Google account at school. They have Chromebooks. So like every kid's got a Chromebook. They make their Google account. They learn about things like obviously like privacy and security, and they start with making their avatars. But they do everything online, right?
Yeah.
So if my son, like in the 2nd or 3rd grade, has to do a project, he's doing it in Google Slides and then just sharing it with his teacher so his teacher can look at it, right?
Wow.
And so he works at school, everything's on Google Drive. He works at school on it. He's like, oh, I need to work on my project at home. He just grabs my computer and logs into his G Drive and he picks it up where he left off, right? Whereas my older ones, like I had to teach them, especially my oldest going into when he went into college, like we're going to set you up with Evernote and here's how you use it. But it wasn't all second nature as much as he uses the internet for research, right? And they teach media literacy, and those are conversations that we have, or on an ongoing basis too, about where are good places to learn from, and how to vet sites and things like that. But it's really interesting to see just the way things have changed, and it's in only a 10-year period of time.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's interesting, really interesting.
So how have you prepped, and I maybe even if you're able to do this, sort of compare to other parents, because I just feel like there's some, like I'm stuck in music, like I am having a really hard time to pick up like what are the kids listening to these days, and how do I want to listen to the new stuff, and I'm like, golly, it just doesn't make me feel like the old stuff does, So when it comes to getting in with your kids and how they're learning, you got to be kind of like in touch, as you mentioned, like you can actually teach them a thing or two about Google Docs or Evernote or whatever it is, like the tools that are available to you. So like what was it, is it just your innate like geekdom that sort of led you to know those things ahead of time, versus maybe other parents are kind of like, I've kind of ignored tech this whole time and now my kids really need it, so like it's kind of like teaching your kids multiplication tables but you didn't learn them yourselves, like you kind of have to re-educate yourself so that you're on the same page with them.
Yeah, like thankfully, like I just have an interest in this stuff, so I'm pretty up to speed on how these things work. And I mean, I use Google Drive for my business, so that's fine. I can understand, but I can see how it could be hard to keep up if you don't use it for work, or if you're just not super interested in those types of things. But for me, that's sort of like I've built almost all my business online with online marketing and online team and virtual assistant and all of those things. So like inherently, all of my stuff is all cloud-based, and I use those tools myself. But yeah, it's like to see these kids who are 7 and 8, and that's just the way that they're being taught. I can see that might be different for some parents.
Do you think that like some people are, because I'm often surprised at like what professions are finding business online. It seems almost like the hyperbole, or what sounded like hyperbole back in like early 2000s and the .com crashes, where like you just go on the internet and you make money. And now it seems like people are starting to kind of like figure that out. So like I kind of wanted to jump to your business, if that's okay. Like kind of describe maybe a little bit about how does that exist in an online world? Because you're a nutritionist, so how does that sort of like, how does that translate to, like, I don't understand. Help me out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I could talk online marketing all day long.
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, like for any business, there's, I think that a combination of online and offline marketing is your best strategy, right?
Right.
But certainly you can build an online presence and you can make connections that way. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot more touch points for people. Typically than if you meet someone in person. It's a little bit different than if I do like a workshop or a trade show. Those would be the most common ways that I would meet people offline. That when you really get a chance to really stand in front of someone and look them in the eyes and have a conversation that way. And with online marketing, it tends to be one-to-many as well, right? So it tends to be a lot more touch a lot more touch points. So you have to have a lot more pieces of the machine in place, right, to bring people in, where you're pulling them in with your free content and giving them like really like highly valuable, really great free content. You can't be afraid of giving it away.
So you're basically like a drug dealer. Like the first hit is free, and then you want to like pay for more. Like that's a pretty base. That's the age-old model of drug dealing. I get it. It's on the internet now.
Interesting analogy.
Totally makes sense.
But it's a little more heart-centered.
Yeah,
some of those people will work with me, and some of them maybe won't, but maybe I've helped them anyways, which is fantastic.
You're both saying you'll never feel better. This will make you feel better than anything in the world. It's the same. I get it.
It's the same, totally. So yeah, like webinars, digital products, sales funnels, the sales funnel, the tripwire, then on and on. I do a lot of streaming. So I have like a private Facebook community that's just value adds for my existing customers and a way for people to get to know me. But it's that whole like know, like, and trust factor, right? And I work primarily on pretty big packages, like not just one-offs. So that whole know, like, and trust factor is like, it's pretty high, right? People have to really spend some time warming up and getting to know you and building a relationship.
Right.
Totally doable online. It's just some of it's a different way of doing it. A lot of it is just a different way of like actually connecting with people, but the principles are the same, right? Like the tools change, but the principles are the same, whether you come and see me in person for a talk. Say hi to Sadie.
Hi, Sadie.
And get to know me that way, or whether you come online and to a webinar and get to know me that way, it's the same idea.
Well,
right?
I think it's interesting how like the world has somehow like maybe embraced us a little more. Like we're ready for online relationships, whereas before it's kind of like we were all told not to do any of this stuff. I shouldn't be talking to you right now.
Years ago, right?
Yeah.
Like when you first started making friends online, however long ago.
Yeah,
there was a point where it was weird.
Yeah.
And now it's not anymore.
I stopped even actually referring to. I've gotten a little better. I still refer to every once in a while like my real life friends, and it's like that's ridiculous. I talk to some of these people online like more, and even like Skype calls. If that makes it more legit, I'm not sure. But you talk to them like more than some of my family members, like some of my real friends or people that I've are a few blocks away. So yeah. I always think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I have a question about, and just to sort of get so I get an idea of how you're operating in an online sense, but maybe there's some common misperceptions about nutritionist versus maybe a dietitian. So like, what is it exactly that you sort of like offer people in terms of, I joke around saying like, you're going to feel better, but what does that actually mean? Like how are you helping
going to
people?
Feel better.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's two different modalities, even though they're both using food, and really like the primary difference is dietitians fit into more of like that allopathic healthcare model, where you have like, it's more like sick care, right?
Okay.
For a lot of people. And it's really governed by the Canada Food Guide, which is really politically driven, right?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it's sort of like the same approach for everybody, right?
As in like lobbyists for like dairy and the various industries.
Right. So dietitians are very strictly regulated, and they basically need to follow the Canada Food Guide.
But what is it about it that's politically charged?
Oh, the whole concept of the Canada Food Guide.
So like they're saying that you should be eating this much dairy or drinking this or consuming this much dairy, this much poultry. Right. So it's the
right. That's not evidence based.
I see. Right.
That's a government like.
Wow.
Yes.
Are people kind of like, because you can't say like the pyramid, what was the pyramid? I'm drawing a blank on the food pyramid. Yeah. Are we letting go of that? Is that common knowledge?
So.
Because like I don't know how much bread am I supposed to eat today?
One person at a time. I'm gonna get around to everybody eventually.
Okay.
Because there's not one best diet for everyone.
Interesting.
Right.
Yep.
Your nutritional needs are different than mine and different than somebody else's. There's not even one best diet for one person for their whole entire lives, right? Like my dietary needs were not the same when I was a child as they were when I was pregnant, as they are now that I'm middle-aged, as they're gonna be in 20 years, right? It changes, and there's like clinical nutritional therapy can be used for a variety of goals. So depending on your own personal health conditions, like I eat a certain way to manage my autoimmune disease, that's not the best diet for you. right? Is not, we're all unique and we go through unique seasons in our life as well.
Right. So, holy cow, this is so fascinating, because I was literally just thinking about like Lincoln, I'm throwing him his whole milk is 3% milk, and I'm just like, I could never, or even like at some point, we all just sort of like maybe work our way to 1% or skim milk or other things, and he's eating things that aren't, maybe just in different quantities as well. For the most part, he eats mostly what we have, but I'm looking at him and looking at me, I'm like, at some point you're going to be having like just a ton of food, because you're sprouting. Like you're just like teenagers. I mean, he's eating a lot now, but like I'm just like,
they say about teenage boys is true for a reason. Let me show you my fridge. Yeah.
So where like is it every so often? Is there predictable stages within life you're like, maybe now is a good time to change your diet, or maybe just like reflect on what or how much you're eating and maybe look to a change? What are maybe some of the signs, if not age, that somebody should go, maybe I shouldn't be eating that thing or drinking so much of that or whatever?
Well, the best indicator is really always how you feel, right? And so when I start working with a new client, we spend a lot of time. I have all of these assessment tools that I use, but really all of what it comes down to is how do you feel? And there's different ways of measuring, looking for different imbalances in different body systems, like your endocrine system, which is your hormones, or whatever the case may be. But a lot of it's all based on symptomology. So how do you feel? So if you're not feeling your best, with energy sufficient to get you through the whole entire day, and sleep, and mood and all of those things, then it's time to maybe take a look at that and see where we can modify things to help you feel better. Because as a society, I think almost the norm has become people not really feeling that great, right? There's a lot of people out there who are really struggling. So anytime that you're really not feeling your best, then it's time to reevaluate. And obviously with kids, adolescents, puberty, pregnancy, these are times of very specific nutritional needs that last for a shorter period of time, but on balance for adults.
Yeah.
It's really based on how you feel.
You hit on something that I've been fortunate enough to be able to start recognizing in myself in a number of different ways. So whether physically or emotionally, where you start to recognize like something is off. Like if I'm like physically, if I'm like just kind of sitting a little bit off, like I've sort of started to train myself to think like I shouldn't be sitting like that, because if I do, I'm going to throw out my back or something like that. So I try to become a little bit more sensitive to the physical nature versus like energy and mood and things like that. So I feel like I've gotten a little bit more in touch with that lately. But for somebody who maybe doesn't, because that is very common. We set like a new norm every time we buy a new pair of pants or something, like, or if it's our energy, we're like, I guess I'm just tired all the time, and that's our new norm.
As a society, we're very like stretched thin, strung out, unhappy, overtired. And that it is, it's technically speaking not normal, although it's extraordinarily common that a lot of people don't even really think about it anymore, right? But we're not meant to feel like that. And so I work with people on their whole lifestyle. So it's nutrition and lifestyle. I mean, some of it's mindset, but things, your sleep, your stress management, these things have a physiological effect on the body, right? So it's not just about being happier, right? It's about, it affects your hormone balance and things like that. So home environment, everything down to like your personal care products and your cleaning products, the whole big picture.
So then how does that sort of manifest in your own life, and in terms of like a practice what you preach type of deal?
Yeah. So, that's a lot of what I share, share online, because people love to see those things and to see like, I don't spend all day in the kitchen cooking, right? And I make some of my own stuff. I think I'm becoming famous for what I call like non-Pinterest worthy DIYs. Like I'm only going to do it if it's really easy and it's sure as hell not cute. But things like making my own personal care products and making my own cleaning products to show people how easy it can be, right? I've got 4 kids. I've got 2 businesses. I got a lot on the go. I'm not spending my whole life doing these things. And it's all just about simple, small changes, like one thing at a time. And I try really hard to make it easy for people, right? So I think in wellness, we see a lot of these sort of like the yoga bodies with the green juice and the Zen, and like, this is not my life.
Thank you.
That's okay, right?
I feel better already.
That's okay. So, there is, I think, a certain amount of elitism in my industry, right? I will work with anybody and I will meet you where you're at. right? Help you find better choices if you tell me you're going to eat out sometimes. I'm going to help you find better things that you can buy. And if you are actually not going to make all the things all the time. I really work to meet people where they're at, because any change that you can make is going to benefit you. And it's stepping stones, right? And you get those things nailed and they become your new normal. And then people start looking at what else they can fold in.
So does that start to trickle into, and I want to jump to, I promise people listening, I have a specific question about a game that you've been playing very recently. So we'll jump to games in a second. But does this trickle down to your kids as well in terms of like how they take care of themselves? Chelsea and I often talk about, not necessarily this in specific, but like more in general, we think Lincoln is going to be ready for most things probably twice as early as we imagine, right? So for example, like if he's going to be reading in kindergarten, do you read him, is that when he reads his first book, or do you start reading his first book like much sooner? So like how do you start to introduce, these are high level evolved lifestyle choices that you've come to learn over time as well, but you get to introduce them to your kids just by doing them. So like how does that sort of like, I guess that is it. Is that how it trickles down to them?
That's exactly right. And it was so wonderful to have my oldest go to college last year, move into residence, and not worry. Right. I didn't have to worry about him like starving, not eating well, or living off ramen noodles or whatever, because he can cook, because this is normal in our house, right? He knows how to make, I'd be like, text him on a Saturday, what are you doing? He'd be like, I'm making roast beef and potatoes in my Instant Pot, right? Like he's making proper breakfast. They know how to, they prioritize sleep. Like he's not pulling all-nighters. My 11-year-old knows if there was like some stubborn thing on the kitchen table after he was cleaning, he's like, I'm going to get some lemon essential oil to clean that up.
Amazing.
Right? Like,
yes.
You just know, because this is what they're growing up with.
And is it just you? Do I get a sense did you mention you're a single mom?
Yep.
How the hell are you doing that? Like you mentioned all those things as if like maybe there's somebody like helping you. Like how is that working?
Well, I mean, they're great kids. I'm really lucky.
Yeah.
And I work really hard to like really balance my work and my family life. My family life is my priority. And I've got, with the age spread, like I remember, you're going to see, dude. I remember when I had 2 little ones, how crazy it is. It's wonderful and it's amazing, but like it's a lot. But 4 with the spread is like easier than 2 who are little, because my older ones, they're so helpful, right? It's like having 2 other adults in the house,
right? Especially
once they can drive. And
I like how you downplayed that so well. That was also very Canadian for those who don't know. Like that was a very Canadian response of like, no, you should have said like I'm a rock star. Like I bust my ass and I'm working really hard and it's difficult, but I managed to do it. But no, the kids are great. Very Canadian mom answer. I love that. So then how do you, especially given that, how the heck do you mix in games into all of this? I believe earlier today you posted a screenshot of Divinity Original Sin from your PS4. So how do you mix it in, and then tell me about this game as well?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, this has been something that I've had to learn. So like we learn and then we can teach, right? So my self-care game is pretty on point, but it wasn't always that way. But definitely I make caring for myself a priority, whether that is having a bath every day or spending time doing things I like playing video games, or whatever the case may be. So you have to make a conscientious effort. It doesn't just happen. Just like sleep, people, you got to sleep. You got to make the time. You have Seriously. To make it a conscientious decision to go to bed at night. But
that seems like common sense too. Like go to bed. It's like this crazy idea. They're like, wait a minute, let me wrap my head around that. Like just go to bed, sleep.
Just go to bed, please, people, just go to bed when you're tired. Everything, the Netflix, the laundry, it's all still going to be there tomorrow. I promise. So some of it is just like very conscientiously designing a life that makes you feel the way that you want to feel, right? And then my kids are older. Like you're in the crazy still. It changes. They need you less. They become more independent. Yeah. They get their own shoes on. They make their own snacks.
Oh yeah, and, that's the thing.
Those days, like those days are coming for you. So it's Hopefully definitely different when they start getting older. And I noticed too, my younger 2 matured a little bit faster because they have the older ones to keep up to as well. Right. So they're pretty mature, 9 and 11, and quite independent and things like that. And early bedtimes, our like secret to success around here. Everyone goes to bed early because I need my time. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go to sleep, but you got to go in your bed.
And that's a great secret that like parents are able to keep from the kids too, that like they think like you say to the kids like, you need your rest, you need to be like, so that you can wake up tomorrow and have a great day, but it's like, please just go to bed because I just need to do whatever it is that I need to do. And it is great. And I was saying to Chelsea today as well, like I am just amazed at how like every day same time, like I can pretty accurately count on, until like Lincoln has like a change. There was sometime in the summer he changed from like later on in the day, he started to nap a little bit early on in the day. But other than that, like every day this week, boom, 1:30 out. Yeah. It's so crazy.
It's good for everybody. Mm-hmm. That's good for them. It's good. Take your lead for us, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and then that's my time, right? So, I mean, I rarely turn on the television or play a game or something when the kids are around, and I'm very careful about the media that the younger two are exposed to. Mm-hmm. You know, my kids have stricter video game rules than any other kid they know, because I know, right?
It seems to be working though. That's the nice thing. You can kind of look back and go like, yeah, those were probably good decisions. Yeah. So then Divinity Original Sin 2, like how is this? I'm not surprised.
I'm so excited for this game.
It looks so difficult. It looks like it takes a very smart person to play it. So like, how has your experience been with it?
Yeah, did you play the first one?
No, I'm a big dum-dum, Miranda. I gotta like shoot things up and everything. I can't.
Well, that's fun too. I like those types of games as well. So this is, for those of you who don't know, Divinity Original Sin 2 came out last year on PC. I want to say last September, October on PC, but it just is coming out for PlayStation on Friday. But if you pre-order, you get 20 hours of early access. So that's what I did. So I'm playing it now. That continues over, so you can play it for 20 hours. So yes, I went in. I had that like, Mark, do you put releases on your calendar? Like I got a layer on my Google Calendar just for game releases, and I went in last fall to my EB Games to get my copy, and he was like, "We don't have it." I'm like, no, like look, it's out today. And it was only for PC, and I don't PC games. So,
don't you love doing that to them? Like, you tell them. Like, no, seriously, I know. Yeah. It happens to me all the time.
I go into EB Games and it's like cheers. Like they all know us in there.
That's the best feeling ever.
So it's just out for PlayStation. I think that's the only console actually. And I played the first one. So this is an RPG, and so it's like isometric top-down, D&D style. So if you're like a D&D player from back in the day, or you liked games like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights, these are some of my favorite games of all time, then you're going to love this game. If you like to turn on the dice rolls and, see your roll for initiative and all of those things, this is the game for you. And if you are not into those games, it may be a little much. Okay, so this is one probably really for the people who really love those games. And the first game was really fun. It had its, some limitations or whatever, but it was great. And I don't even know how many hours it sunk into. Like I must have put 100 hours in that game.
I was going to ask you that.
Never finished it.
How? Like, I mean, that's the less interesting question.
Game. I can't even believe how much game there was in that game. Like
that is incredible.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know why I'm interjecting here, because like I could honestly like I need to get you to like podcasts about games. I was completely captivated. You're just like, let me tell you just a little bit about this Divinity Original. So I'm like, how do I can I play this now, please? Like that sounds incredible. Going back to Baldur's Gate though, because that is
my favorite game of all time.
Is it? Like, okay, I never know if people are going to actually have... I struggle with that question so badly. You're going to get a different question or a different answer from me every time it's asked. But why Baldur's Gate? Obviously, a lot of D&D DNA in there, but, like, what was it specifically about that game that, like, caught your attention? Maybe timing?
Okay, so there's a few things with that. So I started playing it because I like Dungeons & Dragons, and it's Forgotten Realms setting, which is what I played campaigns in. So I knew all the areas and everything. But that game was like the first game that really, I mean, I've been playing games since like the VIC-20. I played games when I was a kid, even though it wasn't super common for girls in the 70s and 80s. But that was the first game that like really sucked me in. It was dynamic. You could pick up NPCs in your party and they had relationships with each other. So if their alignments weren't, like complementary, they had stuff to say to each other. And your experience would be different depending on the choices that you made, like really genuinely. And I was, oh my God, dude, I almost lost a job to this game. Like, And at work, there was like 6 or 8 of us all playing at the same time. And we would stand around and we all had totally different experiences. Like it was mind blowing. It was the first game that was like that. So it was a world I loved. And it was just this like really like immersive, story driven experience with all the, again, you can turn on the dice roll if you're into all that stuff. And, and all the NPCs were voiced. Right. And so they had dialogue and they talked to each other and they talked to you. So if you're just wandering, you're like walking to the next dungeon. They just like the druid would complain when you went in the dungeon because she couldn't see the sun and she wasn't out in nature anymore. Right.
I freaking love that. I love that you remember that. When was the last time you fired that game up?
When the enhanced edition came out a couple of years ago. And oh gosh, I don't even know how many times I beat BG2 in particular. I probably played 5 or 6 times at least.
I just feel like I'm trying to address a few of my like black holes in my game. I've got a couple gaps, and one of them is Kingdom Hearts. I'm trying to play through a little bit of Kingdom Hearts these days. Not the best at it.
How are you finding it?
I'm finding it to be a little awkward, to be honest with you. Like the first one is a little, there's some platforming elements in it that I don't think that it's really that strong. Like a lot of role-playing games, I think there's certain elements that aren't the best. Even Dragon Age Inquisition, where you could jump for the first time, they're like, it was pretty clear that like they'd never really made you jump in a game before. So I found that to be, finding it to be a little bit awkward. But I, like D&D to me, and I've talked about this before as well, but I just like, I need some sort of like Matrix like download so that like I can just like catch up to everybody, because I also love Baldur's Gate, and I honestly don't remember how it came into our household. It was just there. Maybe they were handing it out to everybody who lived in Edmonton because like the guys from BioWare just like made it. I'm not really sure, but very interesting. Also, the creators of Baldur's Gate with the medical background there, or Dr. Vac, the doctors
That's
made
right.
that game, but huge D&D nerds. So
Nerds.
we're taking over the world. But I had a hell of a time with that game, even though I loved it, and it was similar to the games that I was playing at the time, like Warcraft and Starcraft, and like the real-time strategy and the isometric view and the mouse and click and everything. But the D&D stuff, I needed that foundational knowledge of these are two character types that would work well together, or how to use spells and
And
versus
that was
melee
the
attacks.
advanced Dungeons and Dragons rules, which don't make any sense. Like the, like the 3rd and 4th edition have, it's almost like the difference between metric and imperial, right? So the AD&D mechanics, like you just got to memorize them. There's no foundation. They don't really make any sense.
And when you say something like that, then I'm like, well, clearly I should just be waiting for this Matrix download, because I don't know. How big is the AD&D book? I did know a friend who had like multiple versions memorized, where he would know, it's almost like memorizing patch notes between like one version to the next. I'm like, I don't understand how the heck you're doing that, but you have to embrace that at an early age, I think. So I'm just super jealous of everybody else. So what else is what other path did you kind of take to get from PC to PS4 today? Like what else do you have kind of in your gaming history?
Yeah, so I was definitely into PC gaming for a while, but like when I was younger and before I had 4 kids, and now when the first Xbox came out, I started making the switch to console because I had a little less enthusiasm and cash flow for upgrading my computer every 3.5 minutes and playing with friends, right? Hours setting up for a LAN party. What version are you? You got to patch up. I got to patch down, all that stuff. And
what kind of rig did you have? Do you remember what kind of PC you had back then?
Oh, no. Well, no. I mean, back in the first like online gaming days, I had a Pentium 2, and that was like hot stuff at the time.
Man.
Yeah, I was really big into Quake. That was my game.
Yes.
OG Quake. Yeah.
Oh, the range. Holy crap, Miranda. That's amazing.
Killer Quake, Ultimate Quake. So like I live in Ottawa, and I happened to live in the area that was like the pilot for high-speed internet.
Oh,
right.
Fortunate.
And so so getting all that to work and doing all of that. So
what's your friends like at this time? Like, what is your group like when you're playing Quake? You're playing a little D&D. Like, paint me a picture of what this group is like. This group of nerds are just sitting around LAN partying it up and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I played online a lot for sure. But yeah, my like sort of like original crew from my hometown and stuff. I played with them, my friends who are my age. Yeah. And then over time, when the first Xbox came out anyways, I'm like, I'm going to try this. Right. And then it's just so much easier. Everything just works. And once you start playing games on your couch, it's kind of hard to go back.
It really is.
It really is. And, and then the consoles just keep getting better. And then because of my disability, I have some problems with the ergonomics of PC gaming. So I stuck with it for MMOs for a while. I used to run an official fan site for Guild Wars back in the day.
Holy crap.
And played a lot of Guild Wars. That's a great MMO for like grown-ups because there's no pressure to keep up, right? You can just play as you like and you're not going to get all out-leveled. But
I'm so out of touch with that stuff. I'm like, I didn't even realize that was a problem people faced. I'm like, I didn't know like what challenges were with other MMOs, other than the fact that I don't know what I'm doing.
It's hard with MMOs because if you have people you play with and they level up and you don't play for a while and then you come back, you can't do the same missions and it ceases to be fun, at least.
It's such a filthy casual. I only know that through like the Division and that kind of thing. Like it is very similar in that way, but Division is just like totally underrated, in my opinion. Like
I played the heck out of that. I loved it. I loved me a Tom Clancy game. I like that MMO hook. Like it was a little bit of everything, and really great environmental storytelling in that game. I loved it just to walk around and look in the stores and look through people's condos and.
Yeah. Something for everybody. I love even the call out to the Tom Clancy stuff. Was Rainbow Six the first Tom Clancy's game? It was one of the first that I remember playing on PC.
Ghost Recon came first. I think Ghost Recon, the first Ghost Recon was before that.
Was that on PCs? Because I played Rainbow Six on PC back in the day. Yeah. Holy crap. I remember like that would have been the first game that I played anything where like the reticle expanded like as you ran or like as your accuracy was going to be less. And I'm like, I don't understand. Why is it like this is stupid? I couldn't even see my gun and you just kind of like heard the bullets kind of hit the wall or the ground or whatever. Very, very strange times. So is it just PS4 for you now? Or do you have Switch?
I've been playing a lot of my Switch this summer. Yeah. Do you play Switch as well?
Switch? It's all right here. I still, for some reason, Maranda, have my Wii U set up, and every now and then I just kind of like, it's hanging on.
Wii U?
No, never actually. Well, except for like show people the setup that they can see themselves in the reflection. That's kind of it.
Very nice. Yes, I can see myself.
Yep. It's so stupid. One of these days I will fire it up. Maybe I'll play some Super Mario Maker or something.
What are you playing on your Switch?
These days I'm playing Octopath Traveler, and I just picked up Morphe's Law because I just love the style of it, like the kind of the Mexican, almost like Grim Fandango kind of style to it.
My kids and I just played Grim Fandango a little
while
ago.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
How did they like it? Game it makes no sense.
When it first came out, my dad's a huge gamer. And my dad played that game and got me into that game originally. And we played some of it together. And when the remastered came out for PS4, I picked it up and all my kids played it. And to see my like 9 and 11 and 16-year-olds sit and problem solve together and get through, like, that's a hard game. They don't make games like that anymore. And I'm like, man, I played it originally and then I played the remaster and I'm like, wow, I turned to a walkthrough like way before where you guys are. They didn't look anything up.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I love that because I was playing that on my PS4 and then on my Vita and it had like the cross save. So I could be at home and then I would take the bus into work and I could just like pick up from where I was. Like that's something that like very few people I feel like talked about. Not enough games, I think.
Yeah. And then at E3, did you see the live table read? The Jeff Keighley organized?
Oh, that is
We
incredible.
Watched it live. They brought out all the cast and they had live music and they did a table read and it was one of those like moments of like we were all gathered around the TV, like we don't watch stuff live anymore, right? Really? With the E3 coverage, you could get all the streaming on the PlayStation, and we watched this table read, and with like amazing music and great performances, and it was a real family moment. Like it was just fantastic.
I remember playing Grim Fandango for the first time, and just like I like reflecting on the old games and just almost wondering like where did we start realizing that the games were good? Like I just played it because it was silly and fun, but like I didn't even like really think about like how excellent the voice acting was or how the art all came together and the experience of the whole thing. Like we've developed a bit better of a vocabulary or an eye for good games versus bad games because for the longest time we just played just awful games, especially on the NES. Just like some of the worst things ever. But instead of going down that rabbit hole, I want to jump quickly to the original Xbox and talk about a little bit about are you in the Xbox camp now? Because I identified something as you were mentioning that, how PC players, I think, jump to the Xbox pretty safely. Like they're like, that's my, if I'm going to get a console, it's that one, because I know Microsoft, for some reason, this is basically a PC in a giant box with a huge controller. Right. Reminds me of kind of what they're doing now. Like, I don't necessarily know that they ventured too far on that. Does seem like they're blending the worlds of PC and console once again. So I'm always curious. Do you have an Xbox as well, or have you kind of
do have an Xbox One, and like for the last 2 generations, Xbox has been my only console. This is my first time ever having a PlayStation. Is PS4, mm-hmm. And it was a conscientious choice this generation. It seemed like that was going to be the console to get, and I quite love it. But 360 was my primary console before that. I do have an Xbox One. There's not really a lot of exclusives, so it's kind of just my Gears of War machine. Like, I love Gears of War, and I don't think I played much else on it, mm-hmm. to be honest.
How do you, like, man, because like, you're talking about all these D&D, and you got some role-playing games, like Divinity Original, Quake, Gears of War. Like, do you have, because I talk a lot about, like, my blind spots in gaming. Do you have a blind spot in gaming? Like, is there anything that you don't really play that you kind of just like, maybe not for me?
Nintendo.
Oh, no!
Didn't have an NES growing up. Like, always had a computer and played like PC games, even as a kid. So I don't really have that same like nostalgia for all the Nintendo franchises mm-hmm. that a lot of people have. And so like Mario Brothers and Mario Kart and all of those like first party Nintendo games, not really.
I'm really glad we left that to that question to the end. Everybody was having a real great time until that happened, but I think that's pretty fair though.
Like, I'll pick them up and play them. If the kids mm-hmm. want to play Mario Kart, I will. And I have a DS and I have a Switch, and I happily join in, but I'm not like dying to get the next whatever it is that's coming out. Like on my Switch, I'm playing a lot of little indie games mm-hmm. and not really any first-party Nintendo games.
Is there anything on the other consoles that's coming out for the rest of the year that kind of has you excited? Or like, I can't imagine, I'm just trying to think of like, I'm coming to the part in life, especially with like another baby, where I'm like, these things are incredibly exciting. Spider-Man, I can't wait for. There are so many other games. And I'm like, there's a baby coming in November. Like, how or where or how am I like going to be actually playing any of these games?
I've got some holes in my gaming history too, and I'm like,
Oh yeah, that's when the kids happened. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I only played games that you could like only play with one hand, like all the Uno and.
Yes, Uno. That's amazing. So what does 2018? What does 2018 have in store for you that has you excited?
Oh goodness. I'm not even sure. What are we even getting this year?
I mean, like Red Dead, the big ones are Red Dead.
Seriously, waiting for Divinity has been like, I know it's not the most popular game, but that's the one that's really been on my radar. And I still haven't played God of War, so mm-hmm. I need to pick that up and play that. I'm
in a similar boat. I don't mean to put you on the spot. It's just one of those things because I was Divinity was actually the reason that I asked about that, because you could be playing that for the next 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, there are some of these like just giant games, endless games, or even endlessly replayable that you could just like.
Detroit too, right? I could blow through Detroit. I'm on my second playthrough, and I could play that. I could see at least another time or two.
That's awesome, really.
Yeah. That game blew my mind. Like, absolutely incredible story, so moving. Like, I have never been so happy, scared, excited, emotional. Like, I cried so hard playing that game, I had to turn my console off and step away all day. Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's the narrative, the motion capture, the performances. Mm-hmm. It's like this beautiful movie that you get to direct.
I skipped that one. It came out just after God of War, right? I think God of War was April, and then December, Detroit was May.
Came out in May, yeah.
That was its problem for me.
I couldn't put it down. Not really a game, more of an experience.
Sure.
But like really amazing narrative. Really, the performances are just absolutely incredible. Like absolutely incredible. Yeah. So there was a lot of really beautiful moments that I felt really connected to the characters, and And yeah, so like happy ones, sad ones, all the feelings. It was really great.
Do you ever get like this? Because I think I suffer from this a little bit. Do you ever get like a fear of missing out when, like, because you consume a lot of the similar content that I do in terms of like video game stuff, and we're all on the same internet, so we're all seeing all the different games. You've got the calendar, the release calendar in your Google Calendar. So like, but with limited time, you're single mom, 4 kids, 2 businesses, God knows what else that you're not telling me today. And with limited time to play games, like you do have to be choosy. So I'm always curious how people sort of like, that's really what I mean when I ask like, how do you do it, is kind of like, how do you, so like, how about Morphe's Law, which is this silly Nintendo multiplayer game. I'm like, why aren't I playing Dead Cells, or why aren't I playing like 4 or 5
why
of
have
these
I
other...
played 50 hours in Fallout Shelter again this summer? I don't know.
I love it. Yes. Oh, see, I should just like say things, and I'm going to discover new amazing things about Miranda tonight. So, like, is that a thing? Is that, like, the fear of missing out, like, knowing that there are games, or maybe you are able to turn a blind eye? How does that work out for you?
It's hard, eh?
Yeah,
I mean, you have to kind of make a choice sometimes about, like, for time, for budget, for whatever it is, particularly when we go through these little seasons of releases, right? It's nice the last few years. I feel like they've been really stretched out instead of getting all hammered at the same time of year and then having a big drought, which is sort of how video game release cycles used to work. They are definitely more staggered, like, although, like, we're all going to have to book off February of next year, apparently. Like, that's when everything's coming off, just like the whole month.
And March, too. It just, gosh, there was a couple games that were just announced. Devil May Cry 5 and The Division 2, I think, are both in March. So, and that's right after Anthem, which is February 22nd, with Crackdown 3 and Days Gone, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. See, this is, all those are right in here. Chelsea gives me like a grocery list, and I like totally forget to like pick up like lettuce. And it's like, I have a list. Like, just get what's on the list. So, I don't know what's wrong with my brain sometimes. I have major lapses where I'm like, I don't even know how I ended up here. But that's a whole other story.
Parenthood, right?
Apparently. Well, now I have the excuse. That was always there. Now I just have the excuse.
That's pick and choose, right? Like, I felt like I'd log into my PlayStation, see everybody's playing God of War, and everybody's sharing screenshots, and everybody's getting achievements, and I'm like, I still got Detroit to play again. I was moving, and it's still going to be there in the fall, you know? But it's hard. Yeah, because I do. And I like to talk about games, too. So, like, I like to get on Twitter and, you know, chat with people or talk with my friends who are it's fun when we're all playing the same game at the same time, right? To be able to have those conversations. But sometimes you just have to take a pass or wait.
Miranda, I haven't done this in a while. This used to be kind of like my thing that I would do with everybody who came on, and they're like talking about the games that they love, and I was always like, do this more. I haven't done this in a while. When can we announce your brand new video game podcast that you didn't know you were doing until this moment that I'm telling you right now? Like, when do we get to like hear more Miranda talk about video games on a regular, semi-regular basis? Like, is this something that you would want to do?
Well, I mean, I definitely enjoy talking about these things for sure. And I love to, you know, I'm grateful to have an opportunity to talk to somebody interesting like you about things that I love. You're
definitely coming back on. Well, at least that you're definitely coming back on the show, because there's so much more of either the gaming history or whatever you're playing now. I could just like,
I like to break down a game too, especially like I'm really drawn to games with a story, right? Whether it's an RPG or whether it's Gears of War, like, but I can really nerd out and deconstruct a narrative, you know, until people's eyes glaze over.
I love it. And even like you pick out like Gears of War of all the things, like where do you, because I'm very excited where Gears 5 is going, of what they've shown. This is, I don't know when that, I think they maybe said 2019. That's about as much as we have at this moment. I was not a huge fan of Gears 4. I was a massive fan of the original trilogy. And I will always remember picking up the first Gears of War, as I think that was a moment where I was starting to get like really hardcore back into games, from like back when in mid 90s, big into PC games. I had like a PC Gamer subscription and just wanted to have all the things. I remember thinking like, I can't wait to get my resolution up to 800 by 600 with my 3DFX graphics card, like just completely nerding out. And then kind of getting into high school, I'm like, maybe I'll just back off the nerdiness a little bit and just like see if I can can either study or like maybe give a girl a high five one time. That would be kind of sweet. And then coming back into the 360 in my college years and picking up this Gears of War, I'm like, I think I heard a thing or two about this. I think this is supposed to be good. Like, let alone one of the most important titles to the 360.
Yeah.
So very important series, I guess, is what that ramble is all about. But not a huge fan of 4, but I'm stoked to find out what's going on with 5. What was the breakdown of 4
missing
for
a little
you?
bit of the character magic for me. Like,
Yeah.
I love those games because I love a good story, but like I also love shooting guys in the face and chainsawing guys in half, right? Like, there's a certain type of fun experience right there. And it had both. It was like I love action movies. It had that same kind of but I felt really connected to those characters, even though it's a shooter.
Right.
Right. And that's for me where 4 was missing, that character connection. And it's just like the first episode of a TV show is never the best. Like, I really feel like we need to just give it some space to get to know those characters, and hopefully that's going to gel a little bit more in Gears 5.
It's like a spin-off, isn't it? It's kind of like going from Cheers to Frasier kind of thing. You're like, wait a minute, did we really need did we need to find out what Frasier was all about? And then you kind of go like, Cheers, what? Frasier was pretty good. I like the little dog, his dad.
Good analogy. Yeah.
So maybe this is kind of like the second season into it. It did seem like a little too, like, for me, Gears needs to be like very just dirty and like in the mud, and just it's gritty. And that one was a little too polished for me. Even the enemies, like the robots, the DBs, and everything was just a little too sheen. So it does seem if they're going along with these characters, it would be very different. With I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Kara, maybe something like that. Cut. I don't know. Anyways, I can't wait. I'm stoked. I think they had a really nice reveal. Gears 4, I don't think ever had a good preview to it on E3 before it came out. So I think
it was Gears this E3. I'm so excited.
I know. Funko.
I like strategy games. And like myself and my 16-year-old play that. And oh my God, pop figure, mobile game. Like, there's my wallet. Just it's all over for me.
Just open, take all the money.
They're like all of my favorite things put together: Gears of War, pop figures, and mobile games. Like,
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I haven't talked about Gears in forever. This is hilarious. This is awesome. Miranda, we're about that time. I'm going to be welcoming my parents over in just a second as well. So just in parent life, where you're just like 15 minutes, you get to chunk out your day and like, okay, well, this is my morning is this and my mid morning is this, and yeah, it's a very strange way to schedule a day. Can you do you want to share where we can find you on the internet, and maybe people can send some appreciation for you being on the show or any of that stuff?
Oh, thanks. If you want to talk about games and other cool stuff, you can find me on Twitter at Hotel Queen.
Why? What's that about? What's the Hotel Queen about?
So when I first started gaming online, I was a hotel manager in my previous career, and that was, and then you're sitting there with the pressure of like, you got to put in a name, and that's what it was, and that's what it still is. Yeah,
that's like me and my PSN name, which we won't talk about. So thank you so much for thank you for being. By the way, I shouldn't even dwell on this because we're absolutely not becoming friends on PSN until I can actually change it. So I'm very sorry about that. We'll be friends on Xbox or anything else you like. On Steam is totally fine.
Oh, that sounds like a good story.
It's
now
awful.
You have to tell us.
Definitely not happening. And everybody who knows this right now can understand the sweat that's happening here. So I'm just gonna get out of here.
Later.
Definitely not happening. Thank you so much for being on the show, Miranda. This has been amazing. I really, really appreciate it.
I enjoyed talking with you. It's a privilege to be here. I really enjoy your show, so thanks for having me on. And you are a fun and positive guy to talk to.
There's this weird thing that happens at the end of every conversation. Well, not everyone, but every so often. Because I am now recording the show mostly over Lincoln's nap time, if Lincoln is like stirring or awake or if something else is at the tail end of that conversation, normally what I would really like to do is actually just stay on the call and just like chat it up, because like what a great hour that I have with the guests, and especially in this case with Miranda. And at the very end, like where you guys like where the conversation ended, it may have been like another minute, 2 minutes after that, and I always feel horrible about that. Miranda, I just like, if you're listening, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you, and I thought that was an amazing conversation. I hope that we get to chat again very, very soon. And we'll be in your province next week, as I mentioned, talking with the Game and Moose podcast guys out in Toronto, not in Ottawa. Ottawa, by the way, shout out to capital of Canada. That sounded weird to say. We almost never talk about that. Anyways, I'm ruining the moment. Maranda, thank you so much. Guys, please follow her. Send all your positive thoughts and gratitude to her at Hotel Queen. All one word. Hotel like the place you stay, Queen like the Elizabeth. The music introducing it, how could I not choose a Final Fantasy X song from OC Remix? It's Via. That probably makes sense to some of you guys out there. Thank you guys for listening, subscribing, sharing, ringing the bell at youtube.com/WeTheNerdy. This show will continue to be on We The Nerdy. I stream at twitch.tv/Sean Capri, but this show, We The Nerdy, is how it all happens. It's all, I mean, I'm grateful for a lot of things in life. I'm grateful for We The Nerdy for giving this platform and the show and the silly name that doesn't make any sense. And Andrew Semichek, of course, for just allowing this to happen. It's amazing what happens when you have people in your life that just sort of like say, yes, you have an idea, go with it. Just run with it. And Andrew trusted me with this silly idea a long, long time ago in a galaxy pretty much where we live. So thank you to Andrew. Guys, please consider supporting myself on patreon.com/makeusbetter, as well as the whole crew at PSVG, Mark Carabin at Warp Whistle, and the guys at Nintendo Nostalgia, and Joseph at Bad Big Games. It is the best Patreon on the internet because it supports a whole slew of indie content. So go over there, and I want to express gratitude and thanks to Adam Leonard and Gary Gray for drawing the things, and to Antonio Guillen for making the video look amazing. Otherwise, this is episode 168 of We The GamerCast. It's now in your ears. I hope you're back next week, because I'll be there too. Now it's time for Jason. I almost ran out of time, but I got
Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!